Namaskar. This is Akhilesh Bhargava. Welcome to Tit-Bits on Business and Finance with me. With the public money in India at stake in cryptocurrencies growing bigger and bigger, the government had announced at the start of the ongoing winter session of the parliament that it proposes to table before it the Cryptocurrency and Regulation of Official Digital Currency Bill 2021 for the parliament's consideration and passing. The bill apparently has two objectives. The first one is to set up a facilitative framework for the creation of an official digital currency to be issued by the Reserve Bank of India, the CBDC, which is the central bank digital currency. And the second, to prohibit private cryptocurrency in India while allowing for certain exceptions in order to promote the underlying blockchain technology. Hectic discussions have preceded this announcement of the government, including the Prime Minister himself chairing a meeting of all stakeholders to come to a prudent conclusion about regulation of cryptos. The uncertainties and unknowns in the proposed legislation and the possibility of a total ban on crypto trading and investments in India actually sent a flutter in the industry, and crypto prices did crash in the wake of this announcement of the government that it is bringing a bill to regulate this industry. That is not at all surprising, since price volatility and cryptocurrency have been two sides of the same coin, and hence crashing of prices was nothing to be surprised about. With enormous conflict of opinion and disagreement among the stakeholders and various lobbies in and out of the government jockeying for their interests, the proposed bill is yet to take a final shape. The options before the government in the matter of control, regulation and supervision of cryptos, however, are very clear. The first option before the government is to impose a complete ban on private cryptocurrencies in India. The second option is to impose a partial ban on private cryptocurrencies in India, permitting trading in some and not in others. And what would be the parameters of that is, of course, the question. The third option, allowing transactions in just a few eligible cryptocurrencies with strict regulation by the government. And the fourth option, allowing all categories of crypto products to be transacted in India to be invested and held in India, subject to regulation to be framed by the government under this proposed bill. While the emanating regulation for each of these options would be quite different, reports, however, say that the Finance Ministry has finalized a draft note on the proposed bill. But some in the government itself feel that it needs more discussion, more debate regarding the principles underlying the bill and on the broad details of the treatment of virtual currencies in India. With the underlying options being radically different from each other and, of course, diverse interests at stake at the moment, this has resulted in sharp difference of opinion, and government sources therefore say that it is the Prime Minister who will take a final call on the matter, and based on that, the draft bill is of course likely to undergo further changes. If you go by the recent statements of the Prime Minister in the past weeks, it is clear that he favors stringent regulation of cryptocurrencies as against a complete or a partial ban. And that is hardly enough to predict the ultimate fine print of the bill that is going to be announced by the government. The crypto industry thus awaits the bill with bated breath. The Prime Minister, while addressing the Sydney dialogue 3 weeks ago, had cautioned that cryptos can fall in wrong hands and that they can spoil the youth, and he had sought international cooperation in order to regulate them. To him, this is a global issue and countries will need to cooperate with each other. At President Joe Biden's Democracy Summit last week, he again called for united efforts to shape global norms for emerging technologies like social media and cryptocurrency so that, as he says, they are used in order to strengthen democracy and not to weaken it. At this point, however, to us, the Prime Minister needs to decide which camp he favors in the matter of regulating cryptos in India. That is, the one that favors some kind of a ban as the likes of Reserve Bank and the RSS may want, or the one that favors not a ban, but it favors regulating them as most of the crypto industry and the investors in it would want it to be so. With the discussion and decision on cryptos yet to conclude within the government and the ball now in the Prime Minister's court, it is apparent that the proposed crypto law will factor in strong objections to the cryptos of the various government authorities, and these objections are valid and they need to be considered in formulating the proposed law. And what are these objections? The first one, the Finance Ministry, the Reserve Bank of India, the Income Tax Department, the GST Department, the Enforcement Directorate, the CBI, the FIU, etc., all of them say that in the current form, cryptos are a systemic risk, not just to the nation's security, but also to the Indian economy. They raise concern over the illegitimate and untraceable crypto transactions. This has been the main objection of almost everybody. The second, it is pointed out by them that in most cyber attacks of recent times, ransom has been demanded in cryptocurrencies, making it a medium of transacting in crime, or rather, a medium of crime itself. Their third objection has been that the Reserve Bank has repeatedly, sternly voiced serious and major concerns about cryptocurrency. The banking regulator says that cryptos are a threat to our macroeconomic and financial stability. The next one is that unregulated and untraceable crypto transactions are a threat to the national economy and security, and hence, the only way crypto transactions can be allowed is that if they are made completely traceable throughout their transaction trail. They rightly mention that the untraceability of crypto and the transactions therein has substantially reduced regulatory effectiveness on them in India. The next objection is that since cryptocurrencies traded in India are not an Indian asset, the regulation and the regulator have their own challenges. Who should be the regulator and what should be the law for issues like FEMA, etc., certainly needs a lot of consideration. They further say that crypto transactions need to be completely transparent and traceable in order to be permitted. And that is not just in terms of the banking transaction trail and payment trail in these transactions, but also in the respect of KYC of the buyer, of the seller, of the exchange itself, of the trading platform and the wallet holder, some of whom could be often based overseas and very often incognito too. You may just not come to know who the seller or the buyer or the wallet holder is. Despite the fact that the crypto bill has not yet been finalized, a few issues have emerged from the discussions and public statements, and these to us could set the very tone of the ensuing crypto environment in the country. And what are these issues? The first issue that is clear to us perhaps is that cryptos in India will be defined to be and will be regulated as a financial asset and not as a currency, which means they would fall in the domain of SEBI and not the Reserve Bank. The second issue, therefore, clear is that the regulator to oversee the crypto industry in India will therefore be SEBI and not the Reserve Bank. The RBI's domain will be the issue of a digital currency, which sources say that it is likely to be issued by the middle of next year. The third is that SEBI will issue regulations to decide upon the eligibility criteria for cryptos to be traded and invested in, about the setup and regulation of crypto exchanges, about KYC compliance by the buyer, by the seller, by the trading platforms and the wallets, by the exchanges, the trading norms, the disclosure and inspection requirements of the investors and the exchanges, and the permitted advertisements to be issued by them, all with a prime object of establishing transparency and traceability of transactions and to, of course, protect investor interests, which is the primary function of SEBI. The next issue, which is very apparent, is that the government will set a deadline for all crypto holders to declare their holdings and to comply with the new rules that are going to be framed. The next is that the government will insist that Indian investors store their crypto assets on Indian exchanges and wallets and not on foreign exchanges or foreign wallets. And finally, what we think is clear is that all regulations of income tax, GST, FEMA, etc. will apply to cryptos just as they are applicable to trading and investment in any other financial asset in the country. And while India is seized with the need to decide on the regulation of cryptocurrencies, let us look at how a few other countries regulate them, as was recently reported by the Economic Times. Let's talk about the USA. Even though the largest number of crypto miners, traders, investors, funds, exchanges, trading platforms, and wallets are based in the US, there are no clear crypto rules and regulations there, and the country there seems to be in no hurry to formulate them. This lack of any rules and the prevailing confusion is evident from the fact that while the US SEC considers the cryptocurrencies to be securities, the US Treasury calls it as a currency. The US Commodity Futures and Trading Commission calls it as a commodity. And the US IRS, the income tax department there, calls it as a digital representation of value that functions as a medium of exchange, as a unit of account, and as a store of value that must be taxed. That was the case of USA, which has no regulation at the moment as far as cryptos is concerned. It's a free situation. In the case of China, while China too is one of the world's largest crypto markets, its government is hostile to cryptos. In 2013 itself, the People's Bank of China, its information ministry, and other financial watchdogs had barred Chinese banks from handling Bitcoin-related transactions. In 2017, it banned any initial coin offerings in order to raise funds through cryptocurrencies. And in 2019, it was recommended there that cryptos be phased out and restricted since they are an undesirable industry according to the government. In May 2021, the Chinese government issued a warning of an imminent crackdown on Bitcoin activity. And then in September this year, it declared that all cryptocurrency transactions are illegal and that any virtual currency related business activities are illegal financial activities in China. Japan, on the other hand, is considered to be one of the most crypto-friendly nations, which yet requires that crypto exchanges must be registered and they must comply with all the KYC, all the anti-money laundering and combating of financing of terrorism norms. Cryptos in Japan are regulated as either a currency or as a financial asset, depending on their function and use. Portugal is one of the most crypto-friendly nations in the world, with tax rebates, exemptions for crypto traders and investors, as also they have set up free zones in order to test crypto technologies. So that was the situation at the moment in other countries. USA, a free hand completely. China has banned it. Japan is friendly. Portugal is friendly. India has been shifting its position on cryptos from a proposed total ban in 2019 to now potentially permitting crypto trading under regulations. And while India waits for the Prime Minister's actual decision and not one through a hacked Twitter account as we saw yesterday, crypto traders in India are sitting on the fence with fear, uncertainty and doubt. And that is reflected in the overall crypto trade volumes in India having gone down. To us, it is very clear that a total ban on cryptocurrency investment and trading is going to be ruled out. It is also very clear that the legislation to be framed by the government is going to be very stringent. And it is also clear that the government is going to be mightily bothered about norms like KYC, anti-money laundering, etc. Let's wait and watch and see what the government's final bill looks like. This is Akhilesh Bhargava signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.